My name is Marcia Friesen. I'm a PEng, and I've worked in Manitoba for the last 20 years. I started my career in the consulting sector. My direct experience with workplace culture has to do with cultural differences, so national cultural differences in the workplace. There are other ways that we can look at workplace culture. For example, we can look at different generations in the workplace. We can look at gender dynamics in the workplace. If a newcomer is struggling in the workplace, often the root of that struggle will relate to cultural differences in the workplace. So I've often heard employers say something like, he's a great backroom guy, but I can't put him in front of a client. Or I've heard an employer say something like, she's so formal. Whenever I walk by her cubicle, she stands up and says hello to me, and frankly, it just makes me so uncomfortable. I've started to take a different way through the office. At the same time, I've heard newcomers say things like, I'm not sure why I'm not getting recognized in my workplace. I'm doing everything that I think a good employee should do, but I don't seem to be getting recognized or acknowledged for it. And I've heard a lot of newcomers say, I'm having trouble respecting my supervisor because when I go to him for answers to questions, he just tells me, you go figure that out yourself. And these are all ways in which cultural differences have gone unexamined, but that they're making a big difference. They're making a big difference in the productivity of the workplace, in the morale of the workplace, and in how people are interacting. And that shows up in all of us, all day, in how we do our work. But it's not us versus them, because we all have a culture, and we're all operating out of a culture. And that's really important to recognize. I think awareness is the first key that we have to achieve. And as engineers, we tend to think that engineering is the same all over the world. We say Newton's law is Newton's law wherever we are. Ohm's law is Ohm's law wherever we are. So we tend to underestimate the differences in how engineering is carried out. And therefore, we tend to be a bit more surprised than we should be when we see cultural differences at play in the workplace. So cultural differences arise all the time in how we act and how we do things. And I think what we have to recognize is that, firstly, everybody has a culture. I do, you do, everybody around me does. Secondly, it matters. And thirdly, it matters more than we realize that it matters.